Special episode of the Music City Drive-In today. The Music City Film Critic Association announced their award nominees, and I wanted to have a couple members of the board on with me today. Obviously, I have my partner here, Jacob. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm excited to start talking about these.
Also, welcome to the show, Charles. How are you, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Corey?
Howdy, howdy.
Dom?
What's up, man?
Michael?
Hello.
Before we dive in, obviously the nominees were announced today. It's very exciting. I'm going to quickly run down the supporting or the lower tier categories first. We have Best Production Design. We had The Five Bloods, Emma, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Personal History of David Copperfield. Editing had 6 nominees here: The Trial of Chicago 7, The Invisible Man, The Father, Tenet, Nomadland, and Mank. Cinematography, The Five Bloods, Mank, News of the World, Nomadland, Tenet. Score, we had Minari, Tenet, The Five Bloods, Mank, and Soul. Best Song, we had Eurovision, Trial of Chicago 7, Trolls, Over the Moon, One Night in Miami, and Tenet. Screenplay, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Mank, Minari, Promising Young Woman, and Trial of Chicago 7. Documentary, Collective, Dick Johnson is Dead, The Social Dilemma, Time, and You Cannot Kill David Arquette. And then animated, we had Onward, Over the Moon, Scoob, Soul, Wolfwalkers. I think those are the only 5 animated movies that came out this year. And then acting ensemble, we had The Five Bloods, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Ma Rainey, One Night in Miami, and The Trial of Chicago 7. Of everything that I just mentioned there, Charles, what was anything surprise to you?
I mean, there was you mentioned the animated thing. I was surprised about Scoob because it exists. It's one of those weird races where it's like there's a tier of 3 that matter, and then Over the Moon is like right there.
Yeah. And
then the last spot was a crapshoot, and I forgot about Scoob even existing when the nominations came out. Because, oh yeah, like that. It's especially weird because we put Trolls in Best Song,
right, over
some really great songs that came out this year. And I was pushing people really hard for the Happiest Season, the Tegan and Sarah song. But it was the animated stuff's always weird. So I'm just
that's okay. I was pushing people for Wuhan Flu, so you know.
Mm-hmm. I would have probably put that over the Troll song. Like the Troll song kind of blew me away a little bit, to be honest with you guys.
I forgot Trolls even came out this year. That's so far back in my mind.
Well, because that was the first big one too. That was like the pandemic movie. Yep. Like we're gonna move it to on demand and forget theaters. Like this is the first one. That's the one that set off the whole AMC throwing a fit, and then Universal AMC making the deal. Like everything kind of dominoed after that one big move.
Trolls set the market, man. It was crazy.
When we look back in 50 years, like how Hollywood changed. Trolls World Tour.
Corey, any initial thoughts on that bottom tier?
I really liked our craft nominations. I really did think that while I know the film's a little divisive, I was glad folks didn't forget Tenet. I mean, I think that you can kind of haggle about the story and the way that the plot unfolds, and I think it's fair, but I think craft-wise, it really was just kind of a very kind of an oasis in a desert this year of being able to have any sort of film with any kind of that level of craft and studio filmmaking. So I think some fun stuff slipped in because you didn't have so many just heavy hitters. Like we didn't have a Dune this year. You didn't necessarily have your typical big budget things that would kind of sneak into some of these craft categories. But I love News of the World. I was glad that it got a nomination and folks watched it before the voting deadline. And obviously the score category is really strong this year for us. You got Emile Mosserai doing Minari, and then obviously I love Lubin Gordon's score. And Tenet, he's obviously having a huge year between that and The Mandalorian, so that's really encouraging. And there's some really good nominations.
I was a little disappointed not to see Daniel Pemberton in that category, but
yeah,
I agree.
It's a strong score year, but I really like what Pemberton did with Trial of Chicago 7.
Yeah, I would have preferred.
Let me ask y'all something about score, because honestly, I considered it. I'll admit my ballot didn't have it. I considered the score for Promising Young Woman, or Young Woman, sorry. But I felt like that was, basically him riffing off of Toxic, so it wasn't exactly an original score, and because of that, I personally disqualified it.
I didn't disqualify it. I just think that there was one piece in the filming. The film is phenomenal, by the way. I love Promising Young Woman.
Same.
I think that one score is at the most pivotal point in the movie is an incredible scene. It's an incredible piece of music. but wasn't really paying attention to the score the rest of the film up until that point. That was the time when I noticed it.
I think when it came to Promising Young Woman, you had the actual music, like the needle drops, the the Britney Spears, the Paris Hilton, like those type of songs really overtook and is what pushed more than just like the musical score overall did.
And like I said, it's a really strong score here too. Like, I mean, we each have 3 nominations. We nominate. I have 3 nominees that I liked better than either of the Reznor Ross things, which blew me away. I did not think that I would be sitting there putting in a ballot and have neither of the Reznor Ross scores on there, but I did because it was just that was how strong to me this year was. And so while that piece from Promising Young Woman is really, really fantastic, it just wasn't. It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, where like you remember the music,
more than
you remember the score.
Yeah, I was really disappointed that No Man Land's not eligible.
That was the other one I put in there.
It's not eligible for the Oscars, which sucks.
Yeah,
because it's a fantastic score. It's one of my favorites of the year.
It sits with you for a long, long time.
It does. Dom, any thoughts on that bottom tier?
Man, I'm honestly just glad that Soul made it on there, because I didn't get a chance to watch it until after we had to turn our ballots in. So I was like, fuck, I didn't know what to put, so I put the Mortal Kombat Legends. I don't know what to put. Like I feel like, especially from the reaction from the people, that it seems like we've been on the right track and people are thinking along the same lines that we are. And I really don't think there's, other than foreign language films, some of the best films I saw were during the Chicago Film Festival, but they didn't really have release dates for some of them. So I was like, I don't know what I can and can't do with them. So I just kind of left them at the wayside, and eventually we'll get back to them later. But I think everything is pretty solid down below.
So supporting actress, we had Yoo Jung-yoon for Minari. We had Olivia Colman for The Father. We had Maria Baklava for Borat, Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy, and Amanda Seyfried for Mank. Michael, thoughts? Michael's dead. All right, Corey, thoughts?
It's one of those categories where if you told me that's the Oscar 5, I'd be like, yeah, I can buy that. With an Ellen Burstyn or a Helena Zengel to maybe throw in there potentially. I'm very curious what Borat's Oscar prospects actually might end up being. I imagine Amazon is they really have pushed the film really hard, and
it came at the perfect time, and that really helps it.
It did, and just the fact that the film has that last scene in there that kind of plays on the scene from Borat where they have the kind of the running or whatever, and they end up, we're the ones that are the butt of the joke, I thought was just kind of a wonderful coda that's going to stick with a lot of people. And I think she's kind of the heart and soul of that movie. So I was happy to see that she was recognized, because I think she's the best part about it. I didn't really get Glenn Close in Hillbilly Elegy. And I'm a big Glenn Close fan too. That performance to me was not, to me, where I usually like to see her in terms of where her range goes. It kind of tends to be more of just kind of the overacty type of Glenn, but I do know that movie probably has a lot more support than a lot of folks realize when it comes to where it's going to actually land with the Oscars. Also kind of controversial, I didn't think that Olivia Colman was particularly amazing in The Father. I think it's a good traditional performance, but I just think that Hopkins is the center of gravity in that film, and I feel like she's kind of being dragged in with him. That's kind of ended up being a pretty disappointing year. But then again, the person I did vote for was the grandma from Minari. I think she's absolutely wonderful in that film, and I'm very happy that she was able to get recognized, because been a good couple of years for grandmas for us. We had the grandma from The Farewell that got nominated in 2018, and then we have the grandma from Minari this year, and the grandma from Hillbilly Elegy. So if you, we didn't get the grandma from there was a movie last year that had a grandma we missed, but there's grandmas all over the place.
Jacob, thoughts on the supporting actress?
I'm glad to see Amanda Seyfried get in. I loved her. I know that's a very off-topic choice, but I loved her in Mank. Going back, just the Maria Bakalova for Borat, it's insane how well she and the grandma from Minari, I don't want to butcher her name. It's so insane how well they're doing on the circuits right now, and to see them just both get in, I just think they're just going to keep sweeping across everything. But I was really glad about those. Same about Glenn Close. I liked her. I didn't like the film, but I do agree it is very showy. But that might be what people like about it. And then Olivia Colman was good, but I do have some of the same thoughts that Corey has, where I do feel like she was kind of being pulled along in Hopkins's movie.
Supporting actor, we had Bill Burr for The King of Staten Island, Bill Murray for On the Rocks, Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami, Paul Raci for Sound of Metal. We had Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of Chicago 7. I'll just kick it off real quick. First off, I was elated to see Bill Burr on this list. I think The King of Staten Island personally is still one of my favorite films of the year. I didn't think that Bill Burr even had this inside of him. So whenever you watch it, you're kind of shocked that he's really able to kind of, still several scenes. Him and Pete were great together in that movie. It's funny, my three were, I had Will Wheaton in there too, but Paul Raci from Sound of Metal. But Leslie Odom Jr. is fantastic in One Night in Miami. I want a Sam Cooke movie like ASAP, please. Easily the best part of that film. And since I brought up Will Wheaton, obviously I wanted to talk to Michael. Michael, I know that you are a Wheaton guy as well.
Yeah, to me, there's that performance has so much going on with so little because he's basically a VHS tape with the same dialogue. But you talk about how, like in different scenes, the context of what he's saying changes. And I think a lot of it just had to do with Will Wheaton, to the point where, when my family, we were watching the screener, we're all kind of looking at each other going, wait a minute, is this just this guy imagining it? Is he really just a tape? Is it actually some kind of craziness going on where it's more than just a tape? Because he manages to get so much out of so little dialogue in that and do this range that makes him this fantastic villain in that movie.
Yeah, it's great. I was talking to John Stevenson about it, and he said he shot all his shooting in one day. Like Will Wheaton flew into Colorado, shot it all in one day, and then basically went home and him and Brian Fulkins never even shot together. Like they never even did anything. It was just a lot of what he edited was what Stevenson edited into the film was based on, that one day of shooting with Wheaton. I thought he was fantastic in it.
That's even more impressive. See, I wasn't aware of that. That makes that even more impressive and kind of speaks for how well it's edited that you're able to get that much range out of so little.
Absolutely. Charles, any thoughts on this category?
This is the category that I think I was happiest about of everything. Because supporting actress, that was probably my least favorite of how we shook things out. But part of it's that race feels very like there isn't one stand. I guess Amanda Seyfried's been the favorite for this whole time, and I thought she was fine. And so for me, it was like that was kind of it was hard for me to get really into it. But I feel like supporting actor this year is just. You could have had 3 or 4 other guys that could be in this list that I think were fantastic. Anyone in One Night in Miami could have been a part of this. Really, like half the cast of Trial of Chicago 7 could have been a part of this. I feel like there was one, Corey, I feel like there was one you and I talked about that we both really liked. But Coleman Domingo. I think Coleman Domingo easily could have been on this list. I had Coleman Domingo on my final spot for the longest time in my nominations. I ended up putting Bill Burr over him at the last minute. Just Bill Burr, I think, is so unexpected in that movie. But I said earlier today, any single one of these 5 guys could win this, and I'd be ecstatic no matter what. Like, I'm excited to see who wins because, they're just from top to bottom. I do think that Leslie Odom Jr. is the best of the group by a considerable margin.
Agreed.
I think his performance with Sam Cooke and the vocals, like the actual music that he brings to it, the way he recreates Sam's music, especially in that final scene, is just really, really spellbinding. But if any of them, like whoever wins, I'm going to be excited about it because Paul Raci, like maybe it's Rashi. I'm not sure exactly how you say it, but he is incredible.
That final scene with him, holy
yeah.
Yeah.
And I personally, I really liked the trial of the Chicago 7, and so for me, like Sacha in that film, when he and Eddie Redmayne go toe to toe, kind of right at the climax of that film. No matter how you slice it, Chadwick Boseman's another one that could have been in this category for Bloods. It's so deep, this category this year, and I'm happy with the 5 that we ended up with.
I felt like Best Supporting Actor this year was like Best Actor last year, where you could essentially make a second 5, and those 5 both gotten Oscar nominations, and you'd have been like, well, yeah, they are all deserving. And, another person in Supporting Actor that I really liked, that, the list is so long that in any other year you might consider, is J.K. Simmons in Palm Beach or Palm Springs.
Yeah, I was going to say something.
I think that works really well too.
Yeah,
I think it's great, but he's J.K. Like he's doing J.K. and as good as he is, like I think there's some like on this list that really elevate.
Oh no! I just think it speaks. I think it just speaks how deep this list is. Mm-hmm. That he's not even really. He's kind of an afterthought, and he's really good in that movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Best Actress: Carey Mulligan, Promising Young Woman; Elizabeth Moss for Invisible Man; Frances McDormand for Nomadland; Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman; Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Dom, what were your thoughts of that?
I feel that weirdly that as Elizabeth Moss, I feel like she was this one and Shirley could have been interchangeable for me.
Mm-hmm.
For performances. Carey Mulligan was my top. That movie is hard for me not to like hoist it up every time I talk about it, but I think every single one. I feel like I had somebody different on there. Nope, I had all of mine were on there. But yeah, Carey Mulligan leads the charge for me. And then right under her is Frances McDormand because she wasn't eligible, right?
Yeah,
I think I'd actually put it up.
No, she was.
Okay, so yeah.
I was glad we made that change, by the way. I just want to throw that out there to everybody. I was glad that we allowed some of the other film, especially like Nomadland and then Pieces of a Woman.
Pieces of a Woman, yeah.
Because initially I know there was some questions about that, but yeah.
Yeah, some of the performances, man, they just like Vanessa Kirby's and Frances, they added this like a genuine feel to a role that like you really feel like they are this character. And I know that's the point, but there's some people that are able to take it up a notch and the movie becomes their story. And I'm sure it's one of those ones where they take away so much from it after the fact because of how much they became that character. But yeah, for me right now, it's between Carey and Frances.
Jacob?
Yeah, no, I love Frances McDormand. Right, for me, it's her, Carey, and Vanessa Kirby. That's one where I was really glad that we made that switch to allow Pieces of a Woman in, because Vanessa Kirby in that opening and in the end are just gives some of the best acting of the entire year. And then of course Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I thought she was amazing. I thought she really
character fraud. I would admit it's character fraud, guys. I mean, a category fraud. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd agree a little bit. Just because she's the main woman doesn't mean she's the main lead. But
it felt very Anthony Hopkins, Silence of the Lambs to me, where she steals every scene she's in.
Absolutely,
but she's not in. Yep,
right. She's in fewer than I think you expect when the movie's named after her.
Yeah, I think the runtime was like 21 minutes. Is what
she's a force.
Wow.
Those 21 minutes are fierce.
Maybe it's just me. Did anyone else? Her and Denzel become so close making these movies. Especially the August Wilson stuff. She sounded so much like Denzel in this movie. Like the character of Ma Rainey sounded a lot like Denzel at times. Yeah. It wasn't that's not a nitpick. It was an observation I thought was really, really neat. But she blew me away. It's gonna be hard, I think, between her and Frances McDormand. It's to me that's a pretty tight race.
I agree.
I'm in the Carey Mulligan camp. I'm like Dom over here as far as like lifting that movie up. It's going to be number one on my list of the best movies of the year, and I've already watched it multiple times. I feel like what she does in that movie looks simple and really isn't, because she's essentially playing a different character in every scene, but it's not necessarily she's being a different character just for herself. She's being what she wants everyone in the room to think that she's supposed to be. And there's so much nuance to that. And I've always been a Carey Mulligan fan. I thought she should have won for An Education way back when. I'm hoping that maybe the buzz continues. But I know for us, I mean, that was a no-brainer to me, and I was really pleased. If these are the 5 nominees come Oscar night, I will be very happy.
No.
I know Corey and I were pushing really hard for Catherine Langford in Spontaneous. Spontaneous has snuck up on me.
Forgotten film of
one of
2020.
the
It's a
best movies
very
this
good
year.
film. It's a very good film.
I mean, it's not your typical Oscar movie, but it just is really surprising. And I know him and I we're trying to see if we can get some steam behind Catherine Langford, but it didn't quite pan out.
Although at this point with that film, it's a victory if somebody watches it. I mean, if someone was like, if willing to spend 2 hours with it, it's like, I'm happy. Like you did what you needed to do.
Best Actor, Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, Gary Oldman for Mank, Delroy Lindo for Da 5 Bloods, Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins, The Father. Another jam-packed category. Me personally, I probably would have left off Oldman. He didn't do it for me in Mank. It wasn't my cup of tea. I don't feel like he was good, but he wouldn't be amongst my 5. Charles, your thought, man?
Yeah, I first of all, I agree with that. I think if his name wasn't Gary Oldman, I don't think he'd be getting as much love as he is heading into award season. I mean, there's nothing wrong with his performance there. It's just, It's fine. And you have someone like Stephen Yeun, I think, who does a lot more in Minari than Oldman does in Mank. But Corey and I were talking a couple days ago before the ballots were going in, and to me, there's really, it's a 2-horse race, and then everyone else kind of trickles in below that. It's Chadwick and Delroy, and it's hard for me to see somebody else winning this. I mean, I know there's a lot of push for Anthony Hopkins, but it just seems like it's the end of those two. And what's frustrating is this is Chadwick's best role ever, and it's heartbreaking and awesome and sad that this is his final performance. Like, we never get to see this again. And I think that he'll end up winning, but it's really hard for me to move past what Delroy did in The 5 Bloods. Like, that whole third act, like, just begins and ends on the shoulders of Delroy Lindo. And it is one of the most powerful, physically and emotionally, roles that I've seen in a long time. I mean, there's that whole sequence where he's going through the jungle and he's staring at the camera, like, and that character just has layer upon layer upon layer. Like, you peel back the whole MAGA hat situation and where he comes from and how Vietnam influenced him. And it wasn't just in the script that came to life. Like, Delroy really embodied so much of that character. And it's just, I think Chadwick's gonna end up winning in ours and when it comes to Oscar night, which he deserves it. But I think that Delroy, to me, gave the best performance of anyone all year long. And I'm hoping there can be some push for him, when all is said and done.
It almost makes you wish that Netflix would pull category fraud and campaign Delroy and support him. Or
just say screw it and put Chadwick in supporting like he started off as, just one of them.
It's one of those things where, like, if one of them's going to win, they deserve to win best actor, and it's one of them's going to lose, and it sucks that it's from the same studio because the studio kind of has to choose where the energy is going to go, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. And Netflix has
and of course Chadwick actually has that post sad to say. It's crazy for me because personally I feel like Hopkins gave the best performance of the year. I think hands down that his entire performance inside The Father is mind-blowing. And it was crazy to me because in my head I was like, man, Anthony Hopkins deserves this. But then I watched Ma Rainey and I was just, it's like you said, it's sad to understand that this is his final performance because he gives his best performance. And I think that's part of the performance, right? Is understanding. I think he knew that this was probably going to be, possibly his last performance of his lifetime as well. It's crazy to even think about this man, what he did for so many years, understanding that performance and the layers of it. Corey, what were your thoughts, man?
I think we've been kind of spoiled the last few years with the acting category. I mean, obviously last year is historic. I think this year, I think it's going to be the Chadwick Boseman Appreciation Award. I think it's probably going to be one of the easiest Oscars to call in quite some time. I think Delroy Lindo is like going in the canon good in Da 5 Bloods. I think that he's the reason that film will be talked about for another 20 years. Is because of just the sheer force. I think it's like a Day-Lewis / Bardem level 2007 villainous performance type thing that I think people are going to talk about for a long time. And if it had a theatrical run, I think it would have done even more in terms of hitting the zeitgeist. But I think Riz Ahmed is a performance where I didn't put him actually in my 3 because there's just so many performances I loved this year. But I mean, just a performance that I think that just the fact that he continues to show up and got IndieWire's award for, I think, best overall performance of 2020 in terms of their critics poll. I think it looks really good for him and, quite frankly, Paul Raci to both get Oscar nominations. It was interesting with Raci. When I first watched the film, I didn't know anything about him. I'd known that it was a big showcase for Riz Ahmed, who I love, but I was like, wow, he was really good, and he's just been lining up the critics. He's probably been the most consistent supporting actor right now in the early critics races. So I think both of them actually have a pretty good chance right now at getting Oscar noms, which is really cool. But I think the category overall is very, very sound, and I just, no pun intended there, but like it's just, there's just a lot you can do with it.
We're finally making up for getting him in 2014. So
yes.
And we haven't even mentioned Kingsley Ben-Adir either for One Night in
he's
Miami.
very, very good.
I did vote for
Very,
him.
very good.
Best director, we had 6 here. We had Sorkin for Trial of Chicago 7, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, Fincher for Mank, Fennell for Promising Young Woman, Florian Zeller for The Father, and then we had Spike Lee for The Defy Bloods. Michael, thoughts?
Again, I think it's just, it speaks volumes for the diversity this year, and just, in a year when the theaters weren't open for most of it, we still found a lot of quality. It winds up being 6 because there was a tie, so that's kind of why there's 6 in this category. 2 women, and it wasn't the 2 women. Honestly, if you told me before this, it wasn't the 2 women I would have expected, but I'm very delighted to see Emerald get in here because I just love that movie so much, and I love what she did with it. Chloe Zhao has the writer. I knew nothing about her before I saw The Rider, and I knew I should have, but I knew nothing about her before I saw The Rider, and that just blew me away. And then, for her to follow it up with Nomadland, another movie that just blew me away. I'm glad to see that she got the notice. I think everybody in here, again, it's one of those where if this is 5 of these 6 are the nominees Oscar night, I have no issue with it. I think we did a really good job here as well.
Anybody surprised that we didn't get Chung here from Minari?
Chung wasn't my bang. That's surprising, I think, especially over a couple of these. It wasn't my. I thought Chung and Regina King. It was hard not to see Regina King there. And really, Darius Martyr as well was. I thought Darius Martyr, how that film, how Sound of Metal is put together. But Chung, I guess, when you look at the grand scheme of award season, Chung is the heavier favorite amongst those names. I'm surprised to not see one of them in and to see Aaron Sorkin in here. As much as I love Trial of Chicago 7, I loved Chicago 7, and Sorkin's writing is second to none. But as a director, the movie's great because of his script and because of the acting. There's nothing he brings to the table that's super special as a director. Mm-hmm. And so then to see Chung and King and Martyr not make the list because of Fincher, or not Fincher, sorry, because of Aaron Sorkin.
For Fincher, we'll say Fincher too. I agree with you there. No.
Yeah. I mean, I think Fincher's great. Mank wasn't my cup of tea, but Sorkin specifically, as much as I love that film, I don't see putting him in over some of the other ones. But I also think that, there's, when it comes down to Chloe Zhao and Emerald Fennell and Spike Lee, I think that's kind of the top of the class this year. I mean, I think Chloe Zhao's, it's gonna be hard to beat Chloe Zhao in this category, and not just our awards, but a lot of them. It's hard to look at a film this year and be like, oh, that's what the director did. This is solely on their shoulders. This is Nomadland's just such a feat compared to so much else out there, and I don't think there's really much of a contest at the end. I mean, personally, Spike Lee's my pick at this moment, but I think Chloe Zhao's really got a hold on it for a lot of different reasons.
While I agree Sorkin is probably the odd person out in this group of 6, I will defend, though, that sequence with the riot, the way he stages that is actually really well done. And you give Sorkin credit as a director, the way he orchestrated that. But yeah, I mean, most of that's in the courtroom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
I can see that.
I don't think he's a bad director by any stretch. I mean, Sorkin's a great filmmaker. when you look at the final product and you look at how much directorial choices influenced what ended up being the final film, Trial of Chicago 7 just wasn't like, you're going to think of the acting, you're going to think of the screenplay before you think of it.
I was just going to
Still
say
figuring
acting and
out
screenplay is what I thought of.
Yeah, you threw those guys in a courtroom, and those guys did their thing, and that's just kind of.
And that he didn't need to do anything special, and that's fine. Like, he made a great film.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at some of the things that Chloe Zhao does in Nomadland, and it's just, and the fact that she edited herself, and the fact that only 2 actors in there are actors.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you feel like you're
insane.
You feel like you're in that area with Frances McDormand's character. Like, it's, you know, like Florida Project and movies like that, where it just feels like the director has taken you on this journey with these people where you're in the moment with them, and she does it so well in that movie.
Best picture.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna touch on Emerald Fennell for a second, because get that nomination in Best Director, because we've seen her get a lot of screenplay noms over the critics, but the one in Best Director was really surprising to me, and it was really great for me as well. You know, that's a movie where going back on it 2, 3, 4 times, you start picking up on more stuff and more symbolisms, different things she placed around. So I just wanted to highlight that one because I thought she was fantastic in what she did.
Yeah, this was a big year for debut features, and I'm glad that at least one of them made it into our nominations, because I think you had 4 or 5 different debuts like recognized, and I think she's great, and I think she definitely deserves it. I'm glad we got at least one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Martin was another one I kind of wish I was wrapped up in there too. I agree with you.
I definitely think it's going to be kind of a subject matter award. I feel like that's a lot of the time, especially this year, with all the movies that are nominated with those directors. I feel like they're all that great. It's going to come down to subject matter, which people gravitate towards, which is whatever relevant thing is happening at that time. Because I was pushing for Eliza Hittman for Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, and I feel like it has that same kind of feel as a Nomadland or Promising Young Woman, with the taking the zoomed in approach to a female character and kind of running you through this situation they're trying to get themselves into or out of. But I definitely think it's going to lean towards a subject matter area for that award.
Which, speaking of which, that's the reason
quiet movie.
That's the reason why Lee Whannell's not in this category. When you get to subject matter and genre, Lee Whannell just did some real wild stuff with Invisible Man, and you know, I get why he's not nominated, but he was in my 3 for a reason.
Not nominated because it's a bad movie. Best Picture. Sorry, I had to at least say it once. Best Picture, we had The Five Bloods, First Cow, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, The Father, and The Trial of Chicago 7. Two of the big things that really highlighted to me right off the bat, and I'll kick it to you, Corey, first, is No Soul and No Minari. Both kind of surprised me. Corey?
Yeah, it's a very curious setup. Now, some of it's very obvious. Like, obviously, Nomadland is going to be the front runner for a lot of big awards this year, because it feels like the definitive account of the film that's going to come out of this year. Where, like last year, I think you can take 7 or 8 of those movies and say we'll be talking about them for 50 years. I think, you know, outside of maybe The Five Bloods and Ma Rainey, it's going to be Nomadland. That's the film that's going to be, you know, ballyhooed and all these TCM, you know, rewinds or whatever, however long it is from now. But I think it's a very sound group. One Night in Miami is a film where I'm a little surprised it didn't get in. I think it's definitely more of a Best Picture player than some of these will be. I'm really happy. I'm Thinking of Ending Things is in, because I think it's a really great film. And
that's one that surprised me.
Oh yeah, and I just didn't see that coming at all, and it was a very pleasant surprise. I'm not quite as big on Promising Young Woman as others, but I'm happy to see it show up. It's a film I like, and I just, you know, I have my, you know, curiosities with the third act, but I'm not quite as hot on The Father either. But, you know, then again, I think films like Trial of Chicago 7, Ma Rainey, Mank, you know, movies we've been talking about for a while, it's kind of easy to forget that they're all very good for varying reasons. And I think there's not like a bad movie in the group. It's not like I'm looking at one of these just being like, I'm not really sure. I think this might be the best picture lineup we've had so far. I think it's very sound. It's very overreaching. We've got little art films that started the year, like First Cow. We've got kind of the bigger films that kind of are capping the year, like your Mank and your Trial of Chicago 7, your more Oscar type things. I think we covered the bases, so I'm very happy with the group overall. But I'm a big Nomadland guy. I watched it the other night, and I just thought it was just transformative for what Zhao did and just how much it embodies the year. So it's definitely got my vote.
Yeah, no, it's a thing. It's a movie that sits with you for days and out. You know what I mean? And weeks after watching it, it's one of those ones that, yeah, the direction is massive.
And I wonder how much. I mean, not just specifically with Nomadland, but I think that you look at our situation in 2020, and I wonder how much of the moment we're in. I mean, film is always reflective, but I think I look down so many of these films. I had that same thought of like I sat with it and I sat with it, and I thought about. I mean, Sound of Metal was very, very much the same. Of days and days had gone by, and I was still thinking and processing through that. I think Promising Young Woman to an extent was that way. Nomadland, obviously, Ma Rainey. That might have had more to do with Chadwick Boseman than the film itself. But thinking of ending things, which I wasn't as high on as a lot of you guys, but it was still one that kind of stuck with me for a long time. It stuck with me for days after seeing it, and like I said, I wonder how much of that is 2020 that is just especially with Nomadland, where it really had like you look at our economic situation and you look at how the whole stimulus thing is happening right now, and you look at her town and what she went through and the choices that they made and how capitalism affected that lifestyle and that group of people. And all these films feel like ones that you can't just watch one time and then, all right. I mean, Mank's the only one that I haven't thought about again since I watched it. Everything else on that list, I've, it sat with me and it resonated and it moved. But then again, Mank's a traditional Hollywood film, so it has its own perks that are very different than that.
The only thing that I thought about Mank after the days after is how disappointed I was at how I thought I was going to love it. That's really the only thing that's kind of sat with me with Mank since I saw it.
I've tried to curb that feeling in recent years because too often than not I've gotten let down by thinking Nomadland's been my most anticipated all year long because Chloe Zhao's Chloe Zhao. And so that one lived up to my hype, and everything else I try to just ignore hype because I'm afraid it's gonna.
I refuse to watch trailers or anything like that anymore and stuff like that.
Well, in all, what the crazy thing for me is that in a non-pandemic alternate timeline, I don't think Promising Young Woman gets the kind of momentum that it seems to be getting here at the end of the year because it was supposed to be out in April. It's one of those movies that I think people will have really loved in the first half of the year, but then when you get to award season, it's kind of that movie that I forgot about that one when they go to do the votes.
Been like us.
So
basically.
in a way, I'm kind of glad that it got moved to December. Not the way it got moved to December, certainly,
right.
But I'm glad it got moved later in the year to allow it the opportunity to be in the middle of this because that's one of them that really stuck with me. And I think all these movies, we talk about all these movies, and even there's a couple of them I'm not as high on as everyone else. But I think everybody wanted movies that would stick with them, things that they could think about or revisit because, like it or not, with quarantine and everything, we've had a lot of time on our hands and for a while didn't have a way to escape. So it's kind of nice to be able to have this group of movies that you could sit down, watch, appreciate, and if you wanted to kind of go back and watch again and just kind of forget about everything going on in the world for a little bit.
And Compton, it's interesting you say that, what you said about Promising Young Woman, because I feel like that's what's happening to Defy Bloods. And it's really frustrating for me. That movie's my favorite of the year. I think it's the best of the year. And I don't think it's
my two, so I'm with you.
And and that's kind of my PSA to anyone listening to this. Go watch Five Bloods again. Because it came out at the perfect time. It came out at the perfect moment for that film and what that film had to say. It came out, right in the middle of this uproar for social justice that has felt so long overdue. And it just embodied our summer. And now we're getting into awards season, and the awards movies are coming out. And we get Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and we have Mank, and we have Trial of Chicago 7. And I feel like even the people that are big on Netflix train are kind of forgetting about Defy Bloods because it came out so much earlier this year. And that's my big concern going into award season is us. When it comes to the Golden Globes, when it comes to the Oscars, like I almost feel like it's going to get forgotten because of how this year has gone and because of how awards are structured, and it's really disappointing. But I'm glad it seems to at least be getting nominated everywhere that has started up.
Well, see,
Yeah, so much has happened between when that came out and now that you forget that was right around the time with George Floyd and everything. And as you're watching it, you're like, did he just finish this last week? Because it felt so in the moment, that movie, and you kind of forget that because so much has happened. But you're right, Charlie. I mean, just the statement that movie made just has really kind of stuck with me. What, 5-6 months later?
Absolutely. Before we go, guys, first off, thank you everybody for joining. If you could run a quick roundtable real quick, just where everybody can find your work and or your Twitter handle as well. Dom, hit him first.
You can catch me on geekvibesnation.com. Twitter is @king_fish, all caps. And yeah, you know what I'm saying? Do my thing. Pass it along.
Feel it. Michael?
You can read my work at bgdailynews.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at mcompton428.
Corey?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at CoreyWoodruff47 and see my bylines for film predominantly at the national scene.
He's probably on Twitter complaining about the Falcons too. So
Yes, also, yes, but I would recommend following for that. It's really in general.
Charles?
You can find all my stuff at comicbook.com, and my Twitter is pretty simple. It's @Charlie Ridgely, and go watch The Five Bloods again, please.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob?
You know where to find me. Find me at musiccitydrivein.com, on Twitter @tberry57, capital T, and yeah.
Did you have to say capital T? I don't think the capital part matters, but that doesn't
Maybe.
It's important. It's important to him. It matters to him.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining me. It was really great having you guys getting together. Maybe we'll get together again after we announce our winners, which would be fantastic, guys. So thank you guys for coming on.